I felt like I wanted more emotion from her. I did want, even at the end, I wanted her more emotion from her and from what was happening. But then I also think it's the genre, like because the way that the graphic novel is, like maybe there's graphic novels with more emotion, but I started to think about it more like a piece of poetry and some beautiful images. And for me, that helped kind of change my mindset. This wasn't, I'm not reading a novel, I'm reading a different kind of art form. And so I started to get into her rhythm of the way that she wrote, and I found it was very poetic, and the literary references. And to me, it was more like that kind of thinking when you're reading poetry than when you're reading a novel. I don't know. That helped me get more into it.
Like in poetry, like every word needs to be important because it can be short, right? And so like the graphic novel is kind of like that, where like the choice of words. Did anybody else feel like this is off subject, like they haven't read any books when they read this book? I was like, I haven't read any of these books.
I felt like such a dum-dum. At one point I called Leah and I was like, I don't know if my ego can handle reading this book anymore.
That's part of it too.
Such a dum-dum.
Really like made me feel like I already often default, like one of my whatever characters in my mind of self-hatred is you're stupid. So I was like, oh God, I am stupid. I don't know what this word means. So not that that's true.
All the
that's
literary references.
But it like was very like, oh man, I don't know what that word means either.
Yeah.
Like
there were so many words. I had no clue. And at first I was like, okay, maybe I'll look them up. And I tagged them so we could play that game that Kim suggested, the Balderdash or whatever.
Yeah.
And then eventually I was like, I don't even care. I'm skipping all these words that I don't know. I'm just gonna
like,
look
I
at
get the gist of it
and make an assumption. Yeah, I got the gist of it. I'm moving on. I don't care if I don't know that word. There was too many. I was kind of mad at her already, like being like, because the way she was treating her family, I already thought she was kind of acting pretentious. And then all these words, I was like, I'm not even gonna look that one up. I'm done with her. Next one.
Do you have any words off the top of your head, Sarah? Because I think that'd be just fun to do one. And see if any of us
I
know.
can grab my book.
There was one word I just looked. Hold on. Solipsistic.
Solipsistic.
I don't know.
Okay, let's go around and take guesses, unless you know what it means, and then you're not allowed to guess. So say it again.
Solipsistic.
Do we get to hear the sentences then?
Yeah. And my father's life was a solipsistic circle of self, from autodidact to autocrat to autocide.
And then
please describe all those words.
All of the above.
Okay.
Solipsistic.
I don't actually know the answer.
Like
he goes at things on his own.
I don't know the answer. I should look it up. I don't know.
I think it's like term for a cycle.
Oh,
something like a solar
meaning.
system-y cycle.
I think it means a cycle without meaning. That's a guess.
Cycle without meaning. Ooh, good one.
Ooh, she added.
What do you think, Mare?
I like it.
I don't know. I like the or like orbiting around these three things. I like that idea with like the solar system with Leah.
Yeah, maybe orbiting.
But maybe like
I have the answer from Google.
Okay, let's hear it.
Adjective, of or characterized by solipsism, or the theory that that only the self exists or can be proved to exist.
Oh shoot! I sent you this definition on email.
Her treatment philosophy dealt with madness as a complete self-contained solipsistic world that sane people are not able to enter. That's still, even the definition is, I have to reread.
It's a philosophical like theory, right? That like nothing, you're the only thing
from dictionary.com
and nothing else.
You're the center
of the universe.
Oh.
Yes.
That's his, and no one can like penetrate it because it's in his mind, right?
But have you ever thought like, is reality, or am I the only thing that exists and things happen because I believe that they're happening? Am I in like a coma? And like everything's happening to me right now, it's just in my mind, you know? Like that would be that kind of like idea that like everything around you is created by your own self.
Wow.
Good word. See, that's why I like the poetry bit. Like, that's why I think Like Leah, don't worry. I love words and I didn't know a lot of them. So don't. And I always think of myself as
I won't
smart.
start
I know
the
that's
self-flogging just
egotistical.
yet.
Yeah. So don't worry. But that's what I think about like the poetry. Like when you're reading poetry, you have to like stop and think about the words and think about the way that they flow and think about the way that they fit together to create these pieces of words. And that's where I kind of changed my mindset to making it more like different for me to read or easier for me to read, maybe.
Right, that was less about moving the plot along and more about like the experiencing the story together, the words and the pictures, and how they fit.
That's an interesting idea. I like that.
Book interrupted.
My interruption is how much we rely on the internet and our phones. Because yesterday, one of our service carriers in Canada just stopped working. Like, so that service carrier affected a lot because there was a lot of like little companies that were part of that. So my cell phone and my internet was part of that cell carrier. So I woke up with nothing. And I was like, it's okay, it's fine. Like hopefully people can't, like they won't be able to get a hold of me, but I'll just go to work when I go to work. But then it's like, that's all everybody's talking about because I finally got to work. We have a huge restaurant, and we had one debit or credit machine. The debits weren't working. So ATMs were pretty much down. Like guests were telling us about how they're trying to find cash and all the ATMs are down. A lot of banks were affected. Apparently passport offices were affected. One of the concerts got canceled because they can't scan any tickets because everything was over the internet. Anyways, it was just insane. So this is my interruption. How scary it is, how much we rely on the internet and our phones.
Book interrupted.
I should have called the people that suggested this book to me. I didn't even think about it till now and asked them what about the book really they loved. Because I remember them both saying that it was really moving and it really influenced their life and it really was like a powerful book for them. So I wonder, because they studied it in school, so maybe there's more to it when they're studying it that we're not picking up on. Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe it's kind of like the Midnight Library though, like seize the day, because remember the dad said in it, and you get the same sense with the mom, that they just kind of accepted what life, they moved back to the small town and they were living in Europe and happy. He was gay and married a woman because it wasn't really acceptable at that time in the 50s. And they just, in the book, he was just kind of saying, you get a sense that they just accepted this life that was not a great life because they were supposed to, right? He was supposed to take over the family business, and his wife was supposed to stay married to him even though he cheated on her all the time, and he was not supposed to come out and all these things. And she made different choices than her parents did. She even changed. She didn't want to be English lit major, so she just quit, even though it helped her relationship with her father. So that's the part of the book I didn't like. Another part. Now I can understand, because she's doing what makes her happy, right? She's choosing her own life, not what she thinks she should do. So, like even with the barrette, like he kept on wanting her to put that barrette in her hair. Like she just chose herself, what's going to make her happy. So maybe that's really what the book's about, is that her parents didn't have the courage to do it. Maybe.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't know. There's another part that I wanted to talk about. There's a part where she's talking about how she, that she was upset that her parents spent so much time on their creative pursuits. Like she says, their rapt immersion evokes a familiar resentment in me. It's childish, perhaps, to drudge them their sustenance of their creative solitude, but it's all that sustained them, and thus was all consuming. So she was upset that her parents spent so much on their creativity, their creative pursuits, rather than focusing on like her. And I wonder if part of that has to do with the whole idea of the nuclear family, because if you have a larger family that helps take care of kids, each adult can have their creative pursuits, and like perhaps that was the only thing that was sustaining them, because they're in this marriage that was kind of a sham, I guess, and they were living this unhappy life, like Sarah was saying, and not being their truth selves. But I wonder if that kind of resentment is more common when you have just like a small unit where like children need lots of attention and want to be involved in a lot of things, but it's really hard to be creative if your child is helping you. Like, have you ever tried to play the piano with your child helping you? It's like, it's not relaxing. It's not fulfilling, right?
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
It's not about your activity
yes,
of
exactly.
your creative self anymore. It's more about this compromised engagement that
so I thought it was very like
with the child.
Interesting and honest of her to say, like, I resented their creative pursuits because I wanted them instead, and it is childish, but maybe that happens a lot, and maybe that's one of the reasons that so many people don't pursue, right? Like, you know, like if there's other people taking the kids away
to do it,
right? Like maybe there's other kids taking them away.
Yeah, you 5% or 4% fix that shit.
Yeah, maybe they don't want to 4% fix it.
Yeah, maybe I just.
But then why? I think I see what Meredith is saying though, is like, if you do want to have a creative outlet, why does one have to choose a 4% fix to it? Is there something wrong with the system? Whereas previously, for thousands of years, the ratio was for every one child, there would be a minimum of 4 mature adults within their circle. Now, like to your point, Meredith, we just don't have as many pockets of communities that help with the village raising of a kid. It's all on that one parent. So it does kind of feel like a horrible choice between, gosh, I feel like I can really thrive when I do my creative outlet, and I'm noticing it comes at the cost of. But I guess what I'm curious about, I wonder, would the parents have been, and I'm going to use the word self-indulgent, but I feel like that has connotations in it. Would the parents have been so self-indulgent in their creative outlets if they felt like on the other end of the spectrum, if they had the life that they wanted? So on this side, if they have accepted, like what Sarah was saying, that I think this is just the lot in life, we're just going to accept, did that create the parents going hardcore into their creative outlets? And therefore, of course, the kids would feel a certain amount of resentment. You know, I just wonder if the creative outlet would have been so strong and prominent in the parents if they had a life that they felt kind of okay about.
Yeah, and I think that's what she's saying. She's like, it's the only thing that sustained them. So her mom was really great at acting because she put everything into it. She's like, I'm gonna nail this, right?
It's like and it was kind of a form of escapism, right, for her.
Mm-hmm. So inevitably, I think it makes sense that the kids have resentment because of the parents' choices. You're choosing to stay in a life that might not be incredibly meaningful for you. And instead of making adjustments for it, you are using your creativity to feel connected to yourself, to have like rich meaning and purpose. And it comes at a great cost, those choices of not being as perhaps readily available for the kids. I don't know.
Then we have to watch that of saying, what does that mean, that people aren't going to do creative choices? Because,
no, and that's,
you know what I mean? Like
totally
the opposite.
No,
I know you don't mean that, but
yeah. No, for sure. I was just kind of like wondering out loud and thinking through like, like from the kid's perspective, perhaps does the resentment feel warranted in this case?
It's just funny because like as like a parent, like I see that resentment in my kids where like they'll be playing something next. I'm like, ooh, now it's my turn to go play the piano, and they come in, they're just so upset that I would do something for myself, you know, and they don't say that, but they act that, right? Just like but it's exhausting to have to play the like calm, you know, and like emotionally regulated for them, teaching them a lesson just so I can play the piano. Like, I don't want to have to put in all that emotional energy when some, you know, both back in the day, I could just step up, play a little thing, and then walk away. There wasn't all like, you didn't have to have all this energy in order to be able to get that stress relief. right, from doing a creative project, or have to hide somewhere or leave the house, right, or get a babysitter or whatever it is. And it's just interesting. It was just so like on point that she's like, maybe it's childish. You're like, yeah, that is childish. I guess that is what kids see. They're like, look at me, stop looking at yourself or whatever. I don't know.
When you said that, I thought you meant in families when there were more kids. Sorry, I think I misinterpreted, because I see what you're saying, that Kara's saying, or your guys are saying that when there's a community with more adults, but I was thinking you meant that, which is also, I think, true. When there's a lot of kids in a family, they all take care of each other.
Yeah.
And then the parents have but then I thought, well, maybe that means that Mare is trying to tell us something, that she's going to have more kids.
Is this the way to go? Yeah, no?
I'm up to here right now with the two I have. It's been a hard couple months with my kids. Just right? Because I've been busy, because I haven't been there, right? So it's just, that's how it is. If you're not there, then they pay for it.
There's
so
no
it's like extra work on either end. There's no free lunch.
I read that book that Meredith suggested, Hunt, Gather, Parent. And one of the things they say is the multi-aged play groups with multi-aged children playing together. It doesn't have to be your own children. Other children in the neighborhood are different ages. Those kids are more able to teach and help your children than necessarily like the adults do, because they teach smaller kids lessons by playing, and they speak their language, and they're fun, and they're not angry, and they're not like trying to like make them understand. They're showing them, right? Because kids can talk to kids easier. So one of the things in the book, they're saying it's really important to have multi-aged groups of children playing together. And I find that here, where I am here, that's what we have every weekend. We have a whole bunch of kids at our house, and there's very little fighting. And I'm actually able to do things for Book Interrupted while they're here. I just go to my office and do it because they're all playing together. And if a little one cries, an older one helps them. And they're more regulated. So I think it's not just more adults, but more kids also helps.
There's
more
like
kids
a critical mass.
Ages,
There's like a critical mass of kids, right? Like if you have like one extra kid, you're like, no, bring more in.
And multi-layered, like different ages, like 13 to 4 is what we have. Yeah.
Nice.
I was younger. We used to have, we lived on a street that it was a dead end kind of at the end. It had a loop and then it was a dead end. And so we used to all the neighborhood kids would play on the streets. And that's the same thing. Like, I think I was probably one of the oldest, but we had kids from however old I was all the way down to little kids. And we would just run around the street and we do, I direct plays, of course. And like we would, or street hockey, or we'd ride bikes, read whatever. And I think that, that was great because all of us kind of learned, like I probably learned skills of how to be a leader then. And, even though I was a kid and, the younger kids learn from us and we learn from them. And so, that was a lovely way to grow up.
It reminds me of I don't know if you remember, Leah, when we were in Sudbury, when we lived on David Street. That's like the one time in my past that I can remember that we had something similar to that. And to me, it's like magical. I was like, you just feel so a part of something. And yeah, it was like open door policies. If you're a kid, that was the criteria to be able to play. Like there was nothing more than that. Are you a kid and do you want to have fun? Okay, great. Let's go.
Yeah. And if you were at somebody else's house, you just I need to go to the bathroom. You just go into their house.
You just go.
You just go because it was all, or you're hungry and you're like, can I have a snack? And they'd give you something and you'd run off.
Just go. Yeah. You're just cared for. Your needs are met and you're still allowed to be wild and free. Within reason.
Yeah.
If you've enjoyed these video highlights, listen to the full episode on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember to like and subscribe and ring that bell to be notified when new episodes are published. Find out more by going to www.bookinterrupted.com.
Never forget, every child matters.